Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Fresh Squeeze podcast. I am your host, Justin, here with Jeremy as both a co-host and an interviewee.
I'm my own guest.
How about that? So, for those that don't already know, we are now discussing the long-awaited topic of Jeremy's big trip over the sea to the country of Japan.
Yep. For those who didn't know, not only have we had to, we've just been taking some time off past few months, but also we've been just really busy with life. And one of those things was, I took back in October of 2022 this year, I took a 2-week trip to Japan with some friends. So we're here to tell all about it.
Yep, so I will act as the interviewer of Jeremy's trip here, and we'll just hear all about it. This is going to be a multi-part saga of episodes,
Yep.
if you will.
A trilogy.
And then he's got so much to say, we got to split it into so many episodes.
Yeah.
So if you're listening on audio, we'll do our best to describe all that's happening, but we do want to put up some nice pictures and videos that Jeremy has on YouTube, so if you'd like to see those, you can view those during the interview process. So,
right.
To start out, why don't you just tell us how the trip came together? Oh, who all brought this together? Why did you want to do this trip?
Yeah, well, so the idea of the trip first came about, it was summer of last year, 2021. It was about it was either July or August, and
when the real talk started.
Well, yeah, because we had been, me and my friends, we had been talking about this for a long time. Prior to last summer, we were just like, we should, we got to do this trip. We got to go to Japan with the boys. It'll be a great time. But then last summer is when I don't know what really pushed us over the edge, but last summer we were really just like, you know what? Let's just do it. Like why not?
Well, I mean, you guys had been all cooped up the past year.
Yeah,
and
so we got together one night and we were just like, you know what? Let's just do it. So it was a matter of probably over a week or two. We got together. We were talking about what time do we want to go? How long do we want to go for? Where do we want where do we want to go and what do we want to do? And so after we got all that together, then we decided to finally. There was the original plan was there was 5 of us.
Yeah.
So we were like, that's a pretty good size because it's not too few. Not that going with by 2 people or anything would be not. I mean, that'd still be great, but obviously there's several of us, so we'd always have a big group to go and do things. And we were like, and 5's also not too many to where it'd be cumbersome to navigate, with more than and to coordinate more than 5 people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we bought our tickets, and initially we had planned to go in the spring of 2022.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that, but we had planned to actually go way sooner than we did.
And that's when you had your tickets for.
And that's when we had bought our tickets for.
Yeah.
We had planned to go end of March into early May. And January came around, and keep in mind, some people, when I say this, are going to be like, well, you're insane for doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Because when we bought our tickets, the country was completely shut down and not open to foreign tourists.
Right.
Completely. We were not allowed in the country when we bought these tickets.
That's quite a leap of faith there.
Yeah. So we bought these tickets, and January comes around, country's still not open, it's 3 months until we're going, and it's shoot, okay, and then February comes around, they're still not open, and we're talking, and we're just like, man, do we want to try to write it out? Do we want to just cancel and reschedule, even though none of us wanted to? Because I mean, you never want to cancel a vacation,
No.
But then we decided, it was towards the end of February, I think. So, and we weren't supposed to leave until the end of March, so it was about a month before, and we were like, you know what? Let's just cancel the trip. But we were able to get a flight credit for our tickets. And we were like, but then let's just take. It was probably a couple weeks, before we rebooked them. But we took a few weeks to kind of decide, okay, when do we want to go?
Yeah, because you rebooked after you would have gone initially. Right?
Yeah. By the time which was so sad because it was like by the time we had rebooked, we were like, we could have already been, you know. I remember
it wasn't possible.
No, it wasn't possible. I just remember that week that we were supposed to go, and in our group chat, we were all texting. We were just like, dang, we were like, we could be there right now, you know. But so we ended up figuring out when it worked for everybody. So that's when we decided, okay, let's go in fall. Because we were like, do we want to push it out a whole nother year to next spring?
That would have been a long time.
Yeah, initially we had chose this spring because spring is a very popular tourist season. That's when the cherry blossoms, you know, the pink trees that you might see are really in bloom. So we wanted to see those, but we were like, none of us wanted to wait another year. So it's like, we looked it up. Fall was another great time. So we're like, let's just push it back. Let's do, you know, like let's just do the last 2 weeks of October. You know, it'd be perfect weather. It'd be great.
And it ended up being honestly a perfect time to
go. This was as precursor. This trip was when I say this not in bad, this trip was the perfect storm of perfection. Okay, like literally the perfect. Nothing went wrong on our trip. Everything went as good as it could have ever been.
So tell why it was so still tense leading up to the week before leaving even.
So no surprise. Throughout the rest of the spring, throughout the entire summer, Japan was still closed. You could not enter the country.
Right.
And now you could enter the country as a foreign tourist only if you had booked your trip with like a tour group through a tour agency.
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't want to do that. They're going to make us do things we don't want to do.
Right.
We want to go to other places and we want to do things on our own, you know, and you had to like register and you always had to like be with things. Like that's going to be no fun.
So you were leading once again to almost the same situation.
Again, we almost canceled the trip. You know, it's end of September. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're literally leaving
in
2 weeks because we left on October 15th. Okay.
And it still isn't open.
And the country is not open. We're leaving in 2 weeks and the country's not open. Okay. We're all like freaking out because we're like, oh my gosh, no way we have to do this again. And we literally got to the point where we hadn't canceled our tickets yet, and we were even to the point contemplating. We're like, well, because we'd all already taken the time off work, so we were like, we want to do something. So we'd even started, you know, planning a separate trip just for the, you know, the five of us. We're like, let's go somewhere warm, you know. But then we were just like, whatever. And then we were like, okay, we all thought about it. And we're like, okay, we're gonna have to cancel this trip. And we're like, no, and we all were like, we are canceling this trip. The decision was made that we canceled this trip, okay? But this is the only time in my entire life, in the history of man, that procrastination has led to something good, okay? Because even though we had confirmed to ourselves that we were canceling this trip,
you just couldn't bring yourselves to cancel the tickets yet.
We didn't. Like, we said, okay, we'll cancel it, but let's cancel it, like, later, you know?
You know, next
week or something. So, literally, that weekend, we were all hanging out together at a friend's graduation party, and we're talking, and then one of my friends that went with, Eli, he was looking at his phone, and all of a sudden he sees this article, and it's like Japan is rumored to open up like in like a week and a half. Or it was supposed to be, or it was like next week or something. Yeah. And, you know, and this was 2 weeks from being out, so that would have been a week before we left. And we were like, oh my gosh, please, this would be perfect, you know? So, and then we're just like, okay, we're going to just like, it was probably at least another like 2 or 3 days before we found out. But then a few days later, we all start seeing articles that Japan was officially opening on October 11th, which was 4 days before we leave.
Absolutely wild.
The timing could not have been more perfect. So we see that, you know, we're going crazy. We're excited. We're like, this is happening.
So it's back on.
It's back on. And we didn't cancel it, even though we said we were.
Yeah.
We were all like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we had canceled it and then a week later it opens? That would have been even worse. I don't even know how I would have felt. So fast forward, and you know, after we hung out, because for those who don't know, me and the friends that I went with, I live about an hour and a half, give or take an hour and a half for them. So we can't always hang out in person.
Yeah.
So after we left that day, we were like, all right, well, I guess we'll be seeing each other in like 2 weeks, and then
the ultimate comeback story.
yeah. So we had, pretty much from that day until we left, I feel like I've never been this busy. It was just like getting things prepped here at home.
Yeah.
I had to order a bunch of things for the trip. I had to get my clothes packed. It was like we were all on a call together the night before, all getting our stuff packed together and all this whatnot. So let's fast forward to the actual trip.
So before, also let's give a quick review. We'll get into the real meat of the actual trip.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people about the travel experience too?
Okay, travel experience. None. Okay. So, my friends that I went with are all definitely more traveled than I am. Them and their families, they've been to, other countries. They've taken other vacations internationally.
Because your first international trip.
So, which is funny because, we could have gone somewhere closer, like technically Canada, yeah, still an international trip, but we could have gone to, Europe, somewhere closer. But for my very first time out of the country and using my passport for the very first time, we pretty much went as far as you can go. And yeah, so that's why Japan was my first international
Just had to go all in.
flying experience. So that was also crazy because I was like, okay, I gotta make sure I have my stuff for this. I made sure I have my passport and etc.
Because what was the? Everybody wants to know how long did it take to get there, and what was the logistics of that.
So just for timing, we were probably, at least I can tell you I was, from the time that I woke up, because we left on the 15th morning.
Yeah.
So October 15th in the morning, I woke up at because our flight was at, I believe it was at 8:30 or 9, and we got to we wanted to get to the airport at 7, and it was 2 hours at the airport. So I woke up at 3 a.m. that morning to get all my stuff ready. Okay.
You ended up leaving around 5, right? Yeah.
And let's just say from the time that I woke up at 3 a.m. on October 15th to the time that we get there in Japan, I had been awake for well over 24 hours.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt if I had been awake, especially with the time difference, my body had probably felt like I had been awake for probably a day and a half.
Yeah.
Because I woke up at 3 a.m., but then we didn't even get into Tokyo until 3 p.m. the next day.
Yeah, so that's
even though it wasn't a whole day, when we went, there was a 13-hour time difference.
Yeah.
So
essentially it took you
forward.
It took you almost half a day to get there.
Yeah, because our flight from we flew from Toronto to Tokyo, to one of the two airports in Tokyo, and it was a 12.5-hour flight.
Right. That's hefty.
The longest flight I'd been on prior was 5 hours, which and honestly isn't that bad. I'm not even gonna lie. The flight there was so rough.
Yeah. Just because the waiting and having to sit there.
Not because the flight itself is rough, but yeah, just the anticipation. I couldn't sleep a minute on the flight there, so I was awake for the entire 12 hours just sitting in my seat.
Yeah.
I did have a window seat. That was strategic, which that was a good idea because I could at least look out the window when it was light out.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
So it was a long flight, but because by hour 6, I was just like, oh my gosh, please just get me off this plane. I need to get on the ground. But not that I don't have an issue or a fear of flying, but I mean, you don't want to sit anywhere for 12 hours. I mean, granted, I could have gotten up, but since I was by the window, I was like, I don't want to keep having to get up and move these people and stuff like that. So yeah, by about 3 p.m. we got there, and it was about, I'll say it was about an hour, maybe about an hour before we, got off the plane, went through customs, went through security, got our bags, and got out of the airport. I'd say it was a little about an hour, so we probably got out close to 4:30.
Yeah, and so for the time difference, you said, yeah, it was about 13 hours.
It's 13 hours ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, whenever you were getting up in the morning, everybody here in our part of the States was evening time now.
Yeah. So, actually, the first picture I have from being at the airport, actually, it was a little later. It was like, it seemed like we got out at like 5:30. But, so that means it would have been 6:30 a.m. here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it a hard adjustment for you, or did you catch on to it?
And that's one thing we were worried about. We were like, dude, if this is a whole half a day forward, what is our body clock's going to be like? But I think this is probably one of the most craziest things I've ever experienced, because when we got there, all of us combined, none of us had any issue adjusting to their time.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, zero issue, okay? And I think it's because of the time difference that we were awake for. Because I truly think if I would have slept on that flight and stayed on U.S. and Eastern Standard Time zone,
yeah,
I would have been all out of whack. But since I was awake all the way through our time and all the way through half a day their time, my body was just like, by the time it was nighttime there, I was already tired. So it worked out completely.
Yeah, so we kind of powered through it, and it kind of worked out.
We powered through it, and we didn't have any issue, which made it so nice, because then we were able to just get up the next day and start doing things,
Awesome.
So,
now that you've arrived, we're going to be focusing on the first city destination. Mm-hmm. So where'd you guys start out first?
So we started out first in Tokyo, as you may know, is, capital of Japan. But...
would you say that this was, even though everywhere you went was a highlight, this was obvious, this is where you stayed the longest, and
yes,
it was kind of like the highlights.
Yeah. So between our 2-week trip, we were there. I think it was about 16 or 17 days, because we took into account a day
right
for getting there and a day for leaving. So we spent the first full 7 days in Tokyo,
mm-hmm.
and then we spent 3 days in Osaka, which we'll get to the next episode. And then we spent 4 days. Wait, which one did I just say? Kyoto or Osaka? Either way, we after Tokyo, we spent 3 days in Kyoto. Yeah. I don't know if I got that right. And then 4 days in Osaka.
Okay.
And then to round out the trip, and then we went back to the airport in Tokyo. So for Tokyo, obviously Tokyo is a very big city, and you just can't say, "Oh, I stayed in Tokyo." Well, because I mean, you can say, for example, like, "Oh, yeah, I live in, New York or something."
Well, what suburb of New York?
It's like, yeah, but what suburb of New York do you live in, So same goes for Tokyo. It's like, yeah, we stayed in Tokyo, but there's so many, suburbs and different districts in Tokyo.
So what was like the vibe of your district?
So the city that we stayed in within Tokyo, it was called Sumida City. And then I think the town was Ryogoku. That's like the actual town where our hotel was located. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty great, because it was still very close to like the city center.
So it was pretty centrally located.
Oh yeah,
city area.
Yeah, we if you look at Tokyo on a map, we were on like the right side, so which is good, because we were kind of close to everything. We were like maybe, like 10-15 minutes from pretty much anywhere we wanted to go.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's funny because Tokyo in Japan, but then Tokyo in general, has an absolutely flawless and super good transportation system.
That's key right there.
Yeah. Like, obviously in America, if you're not, like, pretty much you take a train, you take a car pretty much everywhere. Even though, like, bigger cities like Chicago and New York and other, they have like train systems. Yeah. But
otherwise, pretty much just cars and taxis.
Yeah, but we took the train system everywhere we went in Japan. We took a bus a few times when we were in, I think when we were in Kyoto, only because it's smaller. But anyway, yeah, their transportation system is super. It's super good. It's almost always on time. And actually navigating the subway wasn't as daunting as it sounds, because a lot of the signs are in English as well as Japanese.
Right.
And But even let's say even if they weren't, everything is coordinated with a color and a number. So it's like, so even if you can't read or even pronounce what track you're trying to go to, you just say, hey, I need to get on the G15 track green, you know?
Okay.
So, or sometimes there was a letter as well. So it was like, it was super easy. So like we did have to ask, there was, I don't want to say like train conductors, but like there's other like subway attendants there that we had asked, and they're like, oh, just go this way, just go this way.
Because like, did you feel like you had a grasp on like how city life and the transportation worked, or did it take a lot of like, wow, this is overwhelming?
I think at first we were pretty overwhelmed, but honestly, and I think the rest of the boys would agree, I think honestly by like day 2 we were like good to go, but especially because now the train pass that we have is actually on our phones, and we were able to add it to our Apple Wallet. So all we'd have to do is the little gate for the train station. You just walk up, tap your phone on it, and I mean, for those who use Apple Pay, you know, you have to actually pull out your phone and you have to actually activate the Apple Pay. But since this is a transit card and it can only be used in transit locations, your phone doesn't even have to be awake and open with the wallet for it to work. You can just walk up, black screen phone, just set it on there, and it'll beep, and it'll show you your balance on there, and then you can keep going.
That's cool.
It's super fast and super quick. So that was so nice. So we were able to take the train, because the airport we were at in Tokyo was actually in about 45 minutes from the city center of Tokyo, where we were staying. So we took the train there, and then it's funny because we didn't realize this since we weren't masters of the subway system yet, but we could have taken a subway from the airport practically like 2 minutes from our destination where we were staying, but we didn't know that. So we took a train to Tokyo, and then we were like, well, shoot, how are we gonna get to our place? So what did we do? Well, because we were like, it's not that far on the map, let's just walk it. Yeah, we ended up walking, and keep in mind, this is at like, you know, by the time this is probably at about 7 p.m. We ended up walking for like 45 minutes to our thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, here's five dudes hauling suitcases across Tokyo for 45 minutes till we get to our hotel.
See, you know, that was one of the learning
experiences. Yeah, no, it was good because we actually got to see a lot of the city at night at first, which I think it was a cool experience when we first got there.
Just like entering in the first time,
and we're literally just walking through the city, block after block, just taking it all in.
First impression, first shock of it all.
So even though we were all so exhausted and tired, it was really cool.
I'm sure it really gave you like a boost.
Oh yeah, I mean,
just seeing all of this.
Even though my body was like, please let me die, you know, I was just like, this is great, you know. I was just walking through. so that was pretty great.
So now that, you know, you're in Tokyo, why don't you run us through just like the highlights of the city, the sights, and just what was just the best parts about it, things you saw. We'll get into places you went, things you ate.
Okay.
We'll just go through what was your favorite things about.
So
Tokyo.
a couple of the first highlights of things we did, first few days. Obviously, I mean, so we pretty much went out to eat every single day for every meal.
Right.
So we got to try a lot of food, and you know, for those. People might think, oh man, eating out 3 times a day for 2 weeks, you're going to spend a fortune. It's like, no, the food over there, like over here, if you get a lot of food for very cheap, you're almost like skeptical. You're like, okay, what's the catch though? Like, why is all this food so cheap? But over there, you can get so much
Burger
food.
King nuggets.
Yeah, I don't want to eat deer ankles. Right? Over there, you can get so much food, good food for cheap. So, you know, a normal meal that you would probably spend like $15-20 on here, you'd spend like maybe $7, you know, for the same amount of food.
And I mean, obviously the U.S. to yen exchange rate helped there.
Yes. For those, so during normal times, I'm pretty sure the yen is it's usually about 100 yen to the dollar. Okay, that's what it should be. You
Right.
know,
I mean, that makes sense
in a normal economy.
Yeah.
Okay, but currently, and especially while we went, when I went to the bank, especially, even the woman, the bank teller, she told me, she's like, "You're getting a super good rate for this." So
Yeah.
for us, something that would have been like 100 yen, so should be like a dollar,
$1.
we were getting for like, let's say for example, maybe like 65 or 70 cents. So
You got a 30% boost on
yes,
everything.
which was insane. Okay, so it helped us a lot more. But okay, anyway, back to your question
Yeah.
about the highlights. First few things that we did, we went over and saw this super old, like this like super old site. It was called Sensoji. A lot of old architecture, and like those I'll call it pagoda like rooftops.
Right.
So
That's the traditional stuff you'd expect.
yeah. So we saw that there was this big marketplace that we saw in this little small town called Asakas. And then so we saw a lot of cool buildings through there, a lot of old traditional type style buildings that have been there for hundreds of years.
And this would have been slightly more out of downtown.
No, it's funny because
it's
this
still-
is why it's such a cool city, because it is literally the perfect blend of old traditional historical buildings with like
Oh, yeah?
modern architecture.
Okay.
Like it some people might be like, "Oh, well that's just crowding." No, it's like it's a cool experience because you can literally go and walk down this like marketplace that we saw, and there's these like old historical buildings, huge structures, big grand entrances, but then you walk back out on the street and you're back into the city. It's all integrated. So,
so
you can really do so much at once. It's not like we had to drive an hour out into the middle of
Okay,
nowhere to see these
alright.
places,
Yeah, one corner you have a skyscraper office building. Next corner you got clay roof pagodas.
Yeah.
So.
And some people might, but we all thought that was such a cool like contrast between the old and the new. We just thought it was really cool. So we did that. Actually, we would do several things each day. We were pretty much doing things from like 8 a.m. to like the end of the day. So we had packed days.
It's crazy how you guys were just on go
Yeah.
the entire time.
We were I kept joking with them, and I was telling our parents I was probably my best physical condition this trip, because no joke, I have the stats to prove it. We were every single day during this trip, minus a few of the travel days into the next cities, but we were pretty much doing each 10 miles of walking every day and over like 25,000 steps a day, and that's still with taking the trains places. That's just how much we were moving every single day.
I don't know if I can say
So
I've
we
ever
were
done
doing
that,
like
so.
I was doing personally like 60 miles a week. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
Um,
What else we got?
back to this. So one of the days, no surprise here, but me and all my friends were all big into like all the Japanese culture. So even like in all their entertainment, so we're all big into like anime and that whole scene.
Right.
So they have a whole part of the city. It's called Akihabara, and
So this is the shopping hub, right?
Yeah, so they have multiple shopping districts, but Akihabara is the whole district for like entertainment.
Yeah.
So that's where
okay.
that's where you're gonna have like all your old retro game shops. You're gonna have a lot of your stores with all your anime merchandise and whatnot.
Yeah.
So and there's like a whole strip of town for this. It's not just like one shop that you might see here.
Yeah.
And or you go into like the that section in Botch Lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
No, this is like a whole section of the city, like a whole strip of street just full of these stores.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom sometimes. This isn't just a shop or a strip. This is a whole citywide block of this
And of anything,
of this entire part of their culture.
anything pop culture, anything that's part of Japan's pop culture was in this.
Yeah.
Even some American stuff I saw in there. So so we went in tons of just like shops that had a bunch of old animated movies. I saw shelves that had original like N64 cartridges from like when they first came out, still wrapped, And this stuff is just plentiful over there.
Yeah.
Whereas you might only ever find that stuff a few here.
And even though how nice and older this stuff is, it's still cheaper and nicer than you'd find it in the U.S. most of the time.
No, 100%. There were things that I bought here, or that I bought in this town, that would have cost me like 4 times as much if I had bought them like from the U.S. online.
Right.
So things are just a lot cheaper over there. So we spent a good few hours in there, most of the day, and then we went to a few of the well, actually I'll get to this later, but we went to a few of the some high points literally in Tokyo, but I'll get to those.
Yeah, we want to hear about that for sure.
So the next big city we went to, which arguably is my favorite suburb of Tokyo by a long shot, is the city called Shibuya.
Oh yes, this is what I was waiting for.
So Shibuya is very big city, obviously, Tokyo, but like Tokyo as a whole is big, but like compared to where we were staying in Sumida, Shibuya is like big, tall skyscraper, big buildings, tons of stuff to do. Like it's a big place.
This was like, the Tokyo Times Square, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So in Shibuya, just tons of stuff, and this is actually, for those who hadn't been following my Instagram or whatever, so they might not know, Shibuya is where the world's busiest intersection is.
Right.
And on average, there's about 3 million people that go through this intersection every day.
Yeah, like a whole convergence of like
so
a crosswalk.
And when I say
right?
when I say intersection, it's not just a 4-way stop.
Yeah.
Like an actual intersection. We'll put a video in during this part so you can see kind of how big it is.
Yeah.
There's probably like 10 different ways you can go here. There's that much traffic, You could probably, the space to where the actual intersection is, you could probably put a house there. It's that big, Like it's a huge just like intersection. So.
But would you consider it like very organized still? Or is it still pretty chaotic?
Well, it's funny because although I would say both, because like not only did we walk through it, but we also, there's a Starbucks right there, and that's a popular spot for people to watch it. Not only did we watched it and walked through it, and although it looks pretty chaotic, obviously everything is timed, so everyone knows when to go, but it is just like a mass of people that go through there, and it was really funny. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But Shibuya was a great city. I loved just like all the shops they had in there. They had tons of cool like shopping and different things. For those who don't know, I like shopping, so I did a lot of that.
Obviously, the thing that I was surprised that you told me, like obviously there was lots of cultural shops with collectibles and stuff that you would expect culturally from Japan.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how you said there actually wasn't a lot of like tourist souvenir type shops.
Yeah. So
it was mostly just, stuff for the locals.
Yeah, and which is interesting because you would think, an absolutely giant tourist destination that Tokyo is, you would think that there would just be shops left and right being like, oh, get a shirt that says Japan, get a shirt that says Tokyo.
That's how it is in North America.
Well, because you go to any town here, it doesn't even have to be a big town, and you'll see those. You can go to anywhere in Florida, Michigan, Tennessee, New York. You can go to any city in America.
Even going to Canada.
Yeah,
so.
and you can find stores left and right advertising their country.
Yeah.
But it was so weird because I actually didn't find a single. I'm pretty sure I didn't find an actual single thing that was advertising just like, oh, Japan, Tokyo, etc. until I was in the airport when we were leaving.
I think you
got
your
my hat. Yeah,
and the magnet.
Yeah.
So
before I left my flight to leave, I bought a hat that says Tokyo and a magnet that says Japan.
And that was all at the airport.
And that was at the airport. That was the only place in 2 weeks that I saw anything that was like touristy shops, which is interesting. But back to the other shopping. So yeah, Shibuya they had a ton of like cool like retro like vintage clothes shops, and it's funny because they're very into. You would think it's kind of the opposite that we are here. They are very into American clothing over there.
Yeah.
So like all the shops are full of like, old American like vintage clothing, or even just like clothing for like American brands. Like I bought this older just crew neck sweatshirt. It's but it's like it's a Puma sweatshirt,
Yeah.
But then they have like stuff for like colleges, like American colleges
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So like it's funny how that's very popular over there right now. So it was kind of funny to see it.
I was kind of surprised too by not their interest in Western American clothes, but like how just the amount of a different like obviously they're really into like vintage and
Yeah.
specialty and kind of like more stylish designer clothes.
Oh, dude, let me tell you. Okay.
But it still wasn't like hype beast expensive.
No. Yeah. So like obviously, there was both. Like obviously you would see both these guys and these girls absolutely decked out and like total, as you should have learned by now on the podcast what hype beast means since we did some cover
Because that's definitely still a big part of the
definitely
fashion culture over there.
Yeah. So there was obviously people that were like head to toe in like designer, super expensive clothing. But then there's also people, that like the fashion over there is completely different to how it is that I've seen anywhere in the US, and I loved it. Like it was so just like it was so different and exciting. Like it made all of us want to like adapt to their fashion style.
Yeah.
Because it's so different and it was so interesting.
Like, would you say it's almost like, by the way that the stuff that you got, it almost seems like, it was very unique, but also kind of like subdued and simple at the same time, right?
Yeah. Well, because I bought some clothes while we were there, and the stuff that I bought definitely reflects their Japan's, and especially like the Tokyo city's sense of style, which I really took a liking to.
Yeah, because I was kind of surprised again with the souvenir type stuff. This
Yeah.
wasn't you only got like one souvenir shirt from Shibuya.
You know what? I did. Yes. I oh yeah, and that's another thing. I did get I'll get to that location in a second, but we did go somewhere that I did get like a shirt that says the location on it, and it was Shibuya. But that was the only thing.
But then I thought it was interesting that like you just got, which it's really nice stuff,
Yeah.
but you just got like simple, fashionable
Yeah. Well,
clothes that they wear there.
because that's a bit like that's a lot what they do over there is their clothes designs are so minimalistic and simple, but yet they do a lot of layering and wear different pieces, so it's a big part of their fashion over there.
And you said it was affordable, so why not?
Definitely. So before we wrap up with Shibuya, I will say that so the shopping there was unbelievable, and it was great. And then we actually went to a Nintendo store, which was awesome.
Right.
We went to this like 4-story record store while we were there.
Yeah.
But my favorite place we went to in Shibuya, it's one of the tallest places in Tokyo. It's not the tallest, but it's one of the tallest places in Tokyo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's called Shibuya Sky. And it's this like, it's cool because it's not just, let me go on the top of this roof of this building. It's like this whole cool experience that you have to like buy into, which, I mean, it's not expensive or anything. But so you go through this building and then you take this elevator, but it's like, the elevator is like pitch dark and it's like, there's like a screen on the roof. So it looks like they're like taking you up into like space and stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds corny, but it's actually cool. Okay. And they take you out onto the roof of this building. Now, obviously, there's like glass walls, so you can't fall off the roof. But so it's what time is it when we went up there? So yeah, so it was about 7:30 when we were up there. So it's dark. It was really cold and windy up there, but it was so worth it because you go up on this on the building. It's the tallest building in Shibuya, and you can just see like city for miles in every direction. It was such a cool and beautiful sight.
I'm sure the pictures are amazing, but
Yeah.
it probably still doesn't do it
Like
justice.
it's like I have never seen anything like it's just stunning. Like I'm not even kidding. Like you can just see, and I mean it was a little cloudy that night, as you can see. We'll throw up pictures and videos, but you can just see the city forever, and it was just so cool that you're so high up above everything, and it was really cool. And we actually met a lot of cool other international travelers while we were up there. A lot of other
Right.
people.
Because obviously that's
it's a big spot.
a big spot for tourists.
Yeah. So we met some cool people up there, and they took some pictures for us, which was awesome. So that was great. So that kind of wraps up Shibuya.
How about moving on from, even though most of it's city life.
Yeah.
Any like just really nice other sites that you saw?
Yeah,
there?
that's perfect. So the next city we went to, well, I say city, but next city we went to was Shinjuku, which is, I believe it's just south of Shibuya, and we actually went to this garden there, and it was called Shinjuku Gyoen, and it was, so imagine, I mean, I'm sure everybody knows what like a Japanese Zen garden is, you know.
Right.
But imagine this, but like a whole park. It was super beautiful. Everything there is just so well manicured and upkept. Like bushes trimmed immaculately, and like the weather this day was just like clear blue skies, beautiful. I mean, the trees, they weren't in bloom yet, but they were still beautiful. So we had some really great sights. It was funny. Then there was like this Starbucks in the middle of the park. So obviously I had to get Starbucks, and because I was like, dude, Starbucks in a park in Japan, that's so cool. And I got this like drink. It was pretty
like
good.
Some special purple drink.
Yeah, it was this like purple frap. I don't know what it was, but it was good.
And so like the way that you describe it being so like perfectly beautiful and serene, is it literally how you would expect from like pictures or in a movie?
Yes. Imagine what you think, and that's what it is. Like dead serious.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. And then as we were kind of rounding out our week, obviously we did a lot of other things. Not everything was as big each day. Kind of wrapping up our week here, we went to probably one of my favorite spots of the whole trip, which was we woke up a little earlier than normal one morning, and we took a train. It was about an hour and a half. It was anywhere from an hour and a half south of Tokyo. So we went out of the like Tokyo metro area and to a connected island to Japan. It was called Enoshima Island, and we had learned about this island from some things we'd read and some shows we'd seen,
Mm-hmm.
and I think everything on this island lived up because it was super beautiful. And well, the reason this island is popular is you can get great views of Mount Fuji from this island.
There we go. Yeah.
Yes. So we I think when did we get there? When we got there, it was about 3 p.m. because we had done some things earlier that morning. And now I think everyone should get this reference. I felt like, so you know how in Kung Fu Panda when Po has to climb like 10,000 stairs to get to the top of of the temple, that's how I felt on Enoshima Island, because now while the whole island wasn't like that, if you wanted to get to the top of the island where the observatory was to watch Fuji, which you wanted to do at sunset, oh my gosh, I literally felt like my legs were just going to like explode. I had done, because we had done so many steps to get up there, but then we went up there too early.
Oh.
We were like, oh my gosh. Did
Did you wait around?
No, so they were like, let's go back down.
Oh,
I was like,
no.
oh my gosh.
And then you went back up later?
We went back up. I was gonna die. Oh my gosh, my legs were gonna explode.
But it was worth it.
It was 100% worth it. But it was just like plus we'd already been walking. This was already in the afternoon, so we'd already done stuff earlier in the day. And we had done other staircases earlier in the day. Yeah, so we went back up, and it was super, again, just beautiful area. there was this nice like beach area that we waited at before we went up, and then we went up to the tower. Thankfully, there was an elevator. Okay, and this was probably just like one of the coolest like moments I've ever had. Like, it was so like beautiful. It was sunset, and like just seeing the sunset just crest on. Now, it wasn't on Mount Fuji. There is a time of the year where, and I'm sure it would have been 10 times more packed, that we heard about, where there's a time of the year where the sun actually sets on top and directly behind Fuji.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody gets all these crazy pictures.
Right.
When we were there, obviously it was like to the left, but it was still just like probably the most beautiful, like, and serene experience I have ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, when I saw, not only, I mean, you got a lot of picturesque stuff while you're there, but these are like breathtaking pictures.
And like, even though we were, and so you'll see these pictures and you'll be like, wow, that's really close. But even from these photos, Fuji was still at least 2 hours minimum.
Oh, man.
West of us.
Yeah.
So even though we were closer, even though we were an hour and a half closer than what we were, we were still over 2 hours away because it's just so ginormous.
And you were looking out at it over the water.
Yeah,
right?
we were looking at it. Was the city was to the right of us, and then there was just, you know, mountain peaks, and then there was Fuji right in front of us over the water, which was beautiful. And then yeah, we got somebody to take a picture of it for us, which is, it's cool because in this photo you can see all 5 of us, and then you can see Mount Fuji right in between our heads, which is pretty cool. I think this is probably my favorite picture of the whole trip that we got as the 5 of us, because it's really awesome. And this was definitely like a big ticket bucket list item, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
Fuji at sunset was a beautiful and like life-changing experience. It was great. Yeah, the observatory was a really cool place. And then that same night, actually, we still had some time, so we actually went up to the second tallest building in Tokyo, which is the Tokyo Tower. It's funny because it's pretty much the Eiffel Tower, but in Tokyo. It looks exactly like it to an extent, except minus like some observatory decks that are around it. But it's really cool because it's like lit up like because the tower itself is like red, so it looks kind of like orangish red at night, which is really cool. And same thing with Shibuya Sky. You know, you can just really just see city going on forever at nighttime. So it was a really cool experience. What else? There's a few more things. I guess we might as well round out the tall building conversation. So we actually did go to the tallest building in Tokyo, and actually not the tallest building, but the tallest tower in the entire world, which is Tokyo Tower. It was about, I'd have to look up the numbers again because I don't want to give false information.
But yeah, I do remember he said it's taller, obviously, than any tower in the U.S.
Yeah.
Or North America. Taller than Empire State, than CN Tower in Toronto.
Yeah.
So
it was the let's see. It is okay. So it is.
Or even though, well, yeah, we're talking about towers, not buildings. But
Yeah. This. I'm just doing some quick Googling here. I think but more of the story is it was basically like, you know, I think it was, I'm not going to lie, I think it was almost like a mile. It was almost like 2,000 feet. Hold up. Yeah, okay. 2,080 feet in the air. So you're almost a mile up into the sky, okay? And this one we went to during the day. I think this one was my favorite, not only because the observatory was the biggest one here, but, okay, I didn't even think my eyes could see that far. That's how far, like, I'm just like, dude, it's still going? Like,
yeah, this is, yeah, you saw this at during the day.
Yes, the other
the
other two were at night. This one was during the day, and there was some clouds, but it was a mostly clear day, and you can literally see forever. Now I was like, yo, we can see like the curve of the earth, but we didn't. I mean, you're a mile up. I mean, you think about that, but we didn't. I had some people ask me that. last few things we did. Let's see. So we went to um one of my favorite restaurants we went to, only because it was such a good experience. We went to this little tiny um Japanese restaurant, and it was funny because the five of us, anywhere we went, especially with the smaller places, which we usually only went to like the smaller places, that's where we have the best food.
Right.
Anywhere we went, we pretty much took up either half or the majority of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because 5 people, these restaurants are usually pretty small. So this one we went to, we went to it on a whim. This wasn't even a plan. We were just like, we looked it up. We were like, hey, this place looks really good, has great reviews. Let's go to it. I think this is one of my favorite places, like on the random places we went to, because we went there and we didn't know what to expect, but we went there and we sat down, and this was the type of place, unless he did this for us just because we were, he could tell we were tourists, we were foreign,
Right.
or
Okay.
this is just how it is. But we went there, we didn't order a single thing. They just brought food out to us.
Yeah.
So unless they only served one thing, which was awesome, then that's how it was.
What did you have there?
So we go there and we sit down, and it's this old couple that ran it. At least they were the only two that I saw. The husband, he was working like the sushi bar, and then the wife, she brought us out like some green tea, and she brought us out the chopsticks and whatnot. And he just starts going to town making all this food, and we're just like, dude, this is crazy. and it's cool because you can see it, and he's just like making stuff, and we're like, okay. But then he makes us each like the most like coolest palette of food I've ever seen ever. So he makes we get like this like wooden plank with this like leaf on it that he serves us our food with, and like not on a plate. It's this little wood like it's not just like a 2x4, but it's like this nice wood plank with this giant leaf that he serves our food on, and he starts literally right in front of us hand rolling and making this sushi,
Oh my gosh.
cutting this fresh fish for the for the raw sashimi type nigiri style sushi. Like literally everything was fresh made seconds before it was given to us.
My
Okay,
gosh.
you could not get fresher than that. Okay,
I mean, it does not
No,
get any more
and
authentic.
it was fantastic. Let me tell you, I don't know why I still eat sushi in America. What are we talking about?
Everything is just
No,
standards.
Yeah, no. Obviously in America, I did notice that they don't do a lot of like the specialty sushi that you can get here. They just do a lot of like, I'll call it normal and basic, but it was still great.
Right.
So there was a lot of food too, and so he made us each. We had 6 standard sushi rolls. One thing we were confused by first is they always give you some egg, but it's like egg that they make into like a square pan, so it's in like a cube.
Okay.
So it was interesting. And then we also had we had, I think that was sort of shrimp or something. But then we also had like the raw nigiri type sushi, where it's like the rice ball with, and he would just like pull out this knife and cut the thinnest layer of fish off this slab.
Gosh.
So we had that, and I was a little hesitant to eat the raw fish at first, but it was fantastic. You would think, oh my gosh, not. If it's prepared well, you're not going to get sick. We didn't get sick. It was
dude
fantastic.
obviously knows what he's doing.
He's been doing this, and I was like this, and then and I don't know what this other thing was. It looked weird, but I think it was good. But then we also had roe, which I didn't know what it was, which is fish eggs, not caviar, but roe.
Yeah.
And they're like little. They look like imagine like orange boba, but smaller.
Right.
And he just wrapped that in seaweed, and that's how you ate it.
Huh.
And it was really interesting.
What'd you think of that? Yeah.
It's weird because I wasn't like, oh, this is gross, but it was okay. I wasn't like, this is the best thing I've ever had, but it wasn't like, oh, this is terrible.
So obviously, that is like an amazing
That is-
first dining experience. Was that one of your first times going out, or?
No, that was definitely towards the end of the week.
Oh, okay.
But that's why let's be honest, we didn't have one single bad dining experience with here.
Yeah.
Almost everything we ate, practically everything we ate was fantastic and the best I've ever had.
Would you say was Tokyo like the premier dining experience that you had? and
Yeah.
variety of interesting food, or does it keep going on throughout the trip?
I don't know. I mean, we ate the most different food in Tokyo, but we just had just as many different types of food in Kyoto and Osaka, even though I probably had some of my favorite stuff in Tokyo.
We can get into the other food in the next cities, but what were some of your other we can spend
a few more minutes
about either the food or other highlights.
Well, real quick before we move on, I just want to say one more thing about the place we went to that we were just talking about. Like, I will say, I don't know if it's just because they hadn't had, Japan hadn't had tourists in 2 years, and they had only been open for like barely a week by the time we had gotten, or what. But everyone we met there was super kind and helpful to us, and in particular, the old couple that ran this restaurant were super kind to us.
Oh yeah.
Because it was funny because he tried to talk to us in English, and he did a pretty good job. He was asking us how old we are, how long we were here, where we were from.
It obviously seemed like a very personal experience.
It was very like homey, small place. And he was just it's not like he has to like be cranking out sushi nonstop.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't busy. It was us and then just another couple of people in there.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of while we were eating, he was just standing there, asking us stuff and asking us how it was, and we were like, this is great.
Awesome.
We found out the word for I believe it was like it was either very good or like good is umai. So since we would just be like umai, we give him like the okay, we like umai.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think people could always tell that they appreciated that we were trying, because they would always laugh and be like, oh good, and then
they're like,
so
good effort.
They always thought it was funny, and he was like, oh umai, yeah, it was really funny. But then it was cool because he even offered to like take a picture of us at the restaurant. He was like, you guys want a picture? We were like, sure. So we just thought that was super nice and really awesome that he would do that.
Yeah,
so
super awesome.
So a couple more things. I had been looking for this for a long time. For those who don't know, I love the video game series of Kirby.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
So, and Japan has a whole entire cafe restaurant themed after Kirby.
Right. Not to mention that they're already a very Nintendo themed.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
place,
Nintendo's a Japanese.
That's where it's from. But
so I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of this. So
yeah, we got to hear about it.
Yeah. So the Kirby Cafe was literally like 10 minutes from where we were staying. Super close. It's literally right next door to the Tokyo Skytree.
So it was a must, right?
It was a must. I wore my Kirby shirt that I brought. Okay. And so we go there, and I mean, it was probably the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, but
pink puffballs everywhere.
Dude, I know. So we go there, and I went from being like peak happiness to probably maximum depression in about 30 seconds.
No.
Okay, because we get there, and I'm looking on the door, and it says, so I scan the QR code on the door, and it says you have to make a reservation. I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe we can make a reservation, the next time or this afternoon.
Right.
I didn't realize, which I guess this is on me, which I'll take this loss. You had to make a reservation an entire month in advance.
That's wild.
And meanwhile, I'm seeing people in there eating Kirby food, and I'm like, oh no, So
Who would have thought it would be that exclusive?
Yeah, well, I think it is because Japan has a lot of themed cafes for other things, whether it's for other games, other shows, but there are only either seasonal or they only last a few weeks. Where the Kirby Cafe is one of the only ones that they have year round. Yeah. So it's always there.
Right.
So it's always popular. So I was a little sad about that, not gonna lie. But I still could go in the Kirby Cafe store, so I did buy a few things from the store.
There you go.
So
it
worked out.
That cushioned the impact a little bit.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, so I think that mostly wraps up. I just a couple more quick things. We went to one of the world's largest fish markets, which was pretty cool. They had these like huge fish. I feel like I was watching Wicked Tuna,
Were you just there to look mostly?
Yeah, we didn't buy. We were just looking around. They had a ton of street food, stuff like that. We went to. I feel like I could get into this, but we don't have. We wanted to try to not make this episode be hours and hours. We went to a you might know they have a lot of like pet themed cafes in Japan.
Yeah.
We went to a pig cafe.
Do tell what that really is.
So it's not like a restaurant. You just go down, you go there, and you can get like a little, like a drink, like maybe like a lemonade or a can of pop, and just some sort of like beverage. But you sit down in this area, and they have all these little miniature pigs running around.
Just the
like I have this picture. There's like this giant like bed, and there's probably like 15 pigs piled on this bed.
It's so funny.
Yeah. So we went there, and they give you blankets. So we had pigs laying on our laps. They were so cute. I probably had this one pig laid on my lap for it. You get like 30 minutes. I had this one pig that was laying on my lap for probably at least 20 of those 30 minutes.
That's so
I took
hilarious.
a selfie with this pig, and it's so cute.
I mean, only in Japan, right?
We'll have pictures for sure. And then we also, we actually went back to Shibuya and did more shopping before we left. Other than that, those are kind of some of the main highlights. And, the next day we took the bullet train to Kyoto.
Was that the first bullet train experience?
Yes.
Going to the next city?
So.
Well, okay. Nice segue.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's probably plenty of other small details that we could go on and on about, but you feel like that's a solid coverage of the Tokyo experience?
I feel like that's a highlight. I tried to make it so you're kind of like, there with me, but obviously we really just did so much every day. You could not fit this into... I can almost barely even fit Tokyo into just like 1 hour,
Yeah.
We just did so much. So...
Well, so far this has already been a thrilling and interesting dive into the Japan saga.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We will be back with another episode covering the trip now to Kyoto. Okay. And
then after that would be Osaka. And we'll say if anybody has any questions, whether it's about this trip or if there's things they want to know about the next trips, if you know us in person, ask us, or if not, send us a DM on our Instagram page, and maybe we can incorporate those in one of the next episodes.
Okay, all right. Well, with that, we can close out the episode. Hope that you enjoyed the first part of the recap of Jeremy's Japan experience. So stay tuned for our next episode. You want to stay updated on when we'll be doing this, you can follow our Instagram and our YouTube, and go ahead and turn on the bell, get notifications on.
Get the bell on.
Get that bell on for YouTube, and you can also set notifications for your podcast providers as well. So, thanks for listening on this episode, and we'll see you again soon.